Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Are you ready? Are you ready? Come on, move in, now move out. Hands up, now hands down. Back up. Tell me what you gonna do now. Breathe in, now breathe out. Hands up, now hands down. Back up. Tell me what you gonna do now. Keep rolling. Keep rolling. Keep rolling. Keep rolling.
The Brothers of Destruction and DX, this is going to be a tough one. For fans of the Attitude Era and even afterwards, it didn't get any better than these two teams, and even if you weren't a fan of these guys, they were still very important in shaping the WWF or WWE and helping the company in terms of popularity. It's interesting how both teams began their on-screen relationships around the same time period, with Shawn, Hunter and The Undertaker all being present for the debut of the Kane character, and as those early days continued on, DX, Kane and Taker were all intertwined right up until the original DX collapsed in 1998. For many people, D-Generation X and the Brothers of Destruction were a part of their childhoods. All four men became cornerstones of WWE, and they had an insane amount of fan support whether they were good guys or bad guys. Quite simply, they were four legends of the company. Time moves on though, and time doesn't wait for anybody. As the WWE evolved over the years, so did the professional and personal lives of these four legends. Triple H became way more hands-on behind the scenes. Glenn Jacobs would become the mayor of Knox County. Shawn Michaels retired and he began working with the talent at NXT. And The Undertaker, well, the dead man was still competing in the ring, searching for a final match that would satisfy his desire to leave wrestling on a high note. In 2018, the idea of DX getting back together to face the Brothers of Destruction sounded impossible, mainly due to HBK's retirement and Glenn Jacobs getting so heavily involved in politics. But strange things can happen when the WWE go to Saudi Arabia, and indeed, it felt strange when a DX versus Brothers of Destruction match was announced for the Crown Jewel 2018 show. Let's take a look at what could only be described as a train wreck match that maybe shouldn't have happened at all on November 2nd, 2018. When The Undertaker retired Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 26, it felt a little bittersweet for many fans, including myself. HBK was still putting on incredible performances all the way up to 2010, even outperforming many of the younger main eventers on the roster, but Shawn thought it was time to go and he talked about ending his career on a high note. HBK stated the best way to go is to leave fans wanting more, and he didn't want to be another guy who couldn't perform the way he once did during the twilight years of his career. So while I, and I'm sure many others, wanted Shawn to hang around and have more matches, his decision to leave while still being the showstopper in the main event was understandable. Rumours began circulating during 2016 regarding a potential Shawn Michaels return. The 2017 Royal Rumble was being held in Shawn's hometown of San Antonio, Texas, inside the Alamo Dome. The event marked the 20th anniversary of Shawn beating Psycho Sid to reclaim the World Wrestling Federation Championship in the same venue. And the rumours went into overdrive when AJ tweeted out a pay-per-view mock-up featuring HBK and AJ standing in front of the San Antonio skyline. Unfortunately, this match didn't happen, but Shawn and AJ did talk about the potential matchup on Table for Three, a WWE Network show where superstars discuss practically anything while having dinner. What Shawn says to AJ is very fascinating, and we can learn a bit more about Shawn's mindset here when it came to returning for one more match. On the Table for Three show that featured Kevin Nash, AJ Styles and Shawn Michaels, AJ said he got interested in a Shawn Michaels match when he heard HBK was attending the Performance Center. AJ wanted the higher-ups to ask Shawn if he wanted to do something at the Royal Rumble. Nash said he saw AJ's tweet and thought the match would be sweet. And Shawn says that he too saw the graphic, and Shawn admired the fact that AJ was keeping his name out there by tweeting out the mock-up. HBK then revealed that writers had previously pitched ideas for Shawn to come back, but this Royal Rumble match in the Alamo Dome was actually pitched to Shawn by Vince McMahon himself. HBK liked the idea of wrestling styles. He rubbed his hands together while thinking about what kind of match the Heartbreak Kid and the Phenomenal One could potentially have, and what story they could tell in the ring. Shawn found it a fascinating prospect. He knew he and AJ would have to work their tails off, But ultimately, Shawn admitted that he couldn't wrestle to the level he once could, and there's an awkward silence here when Shawn asks AJ and Nash who would go over in that match. Who wins an AJ Styles versus Shawn Michaels bout? If Shawn wins, it does nothing for AJ, and AJ doesn't look good. If AJ wins, then Shawn's legacy maybe gets further tarnished due to coming out of retirement just to take a loss in San Antonio. Plus, he thought it would be anticlimactic as well. AJ agrees with Michaels, saying it would be a risk to go out again after having such a good match with The Undertaker. And Shawn then says that he looks at the whole story arc of the Heartbreak Kid, from throwing Marty Jannetty through the glass at the barbershop to defying The Undertaker before the last Tombstone Piledriver. HBK considers that whole stretch the story of his career. Another match would sit independently away from that whole arc, and it would also feel pointless. AJ compares this to the Rocky V movie, saying it was unnecessary. So, the big takeaway here is that Shawn felt a return match would need to fit into the story of his character, and it also sounds like Shawn didn't want to come back just to take another loss. We're going to come back to this soon. Creative and story arcs, of course, were not the only reason for working a show in Saudi Arabia, but more on this in a moment. Absolutely out of the blue, a match between Triple H and The Undertaker was announced for the Super Showdown 2018 event in Melbourne, Australia. Hunter came out to the ring on the August 20th, 2018 episode of Raw, and he said after watching SummerSlam he got the itch to lace up his boots again and once again be the game. He thought this would happen, and that's why when Vince called him a few weeks prior to pitch a match at Super Showdown, Hunter agreed. When Vince said this match would be against The Undertaker, the game wasn't so sure. The end of an era Hell in a Cell match he and Taker had meant a lot to Triple H, and when he, Shawn and Taker stood on the entranceway at the end of that match, it changed all three men. Shawn would disappear for good, The Undertaker's streak would eventually come to an end, and Triple H would put on a suit. The era really did end that night, and everything changed. Hunter thought about it, and he agreed to do the match only if The Undertaker agreed to be the Phenom one more time. A bygone era was gonna return. This Super Showdown match will feature The Undertaker in the game, and it'll be one last time. The following week, Shawn Michaels announced that he was going to Australia too so he can see the match in person. HBK then said The Undertaker's chances weren't so good this time around, seeing as The Undertaker's streak ended and some of that mystique has been taken away from the Phenom. Triple H, on the other hand, is still the game and still the cerebral assassin, and Triple H has a lot more left in the tank in comparison to The Undertaker. The dead man shows up, and Taker says Shawn just made this thing personal. Taker's already put Shawn and Hunter down, and the degenerates can't accept it. Shawn only thinks Triple H is gonna win because Taker took away Shawn's career, and Shawn says he stayed away from the ring because he's a man of his word, because he respects the fans, and because he respects The Undertaker. The crowd chants one more match, and Shawn says he hears that in every arena he goes to. He gets people asking him for one more match backstage. He turns down millions of dollars every year, and he's done it all out of respect for The Undertaker. Undertaker wonders if it's really respect, or is it fear? Because if Shawn does come out of retirement, there's only one guy he can come after, and that's the dead man. And the dead man says he would put Shawn down again. HBK knows it, the fans know it, Taker knows it, but for now, Taker's gonna focus on putting Shawn's buddy down again at the Super Showdown event. This promo here was obviously the strongest hint so far that Michaels was planning to have another match, but it still in a way felt unlikely after what Shawn said in interviews following WrestleMania 26. If we go back to what Shawn said to AJ on Table for 3 within the context of storylines, it kinda made sense. Shawn versus The Undertaker again wouldn't feel independent from HBK's story arc. It would fit right in at the end, and it was simple yet brilliant. Shawn says he's staying away out of respect. Taker says Shawn's just afraid of him. So it's almost like Taker invited Shawn to come out of retirement and try his luck again. Over the next 2 weeks, it was revealed that Shawn Michaels was going to stand in Triple H's corner for the Melbourne match. So The Undertaker announced that Kane was going to return and stand in his corner. Kane had been active in WWE during late 2017 and early 2018, while making a few sporadic appearances through the year, but he was definitely winding down considerably to focus on a new career path. On the Raw before Super Showdown then, Shawn Michaels warned Kane not to step in the ring or get involved because the Big Red Machine will have to deal with the Heartbreak Kid. Kane then appeared behind Michaels and Shawn got floored after a big right hand. The lights then went out in the arena, and The Undertaker then stood over Shawn when the lights came back on. Undertaker was just about to tombstone Shawn, but Triple H ran to the ring. The game fought both Brothers of Destruction, but on this night, DX weren't good enough. Shawn and Hunter take chokeslams, and The Undertaker decides to tombstone Triple H for good measure before leaving the ring with his little brother. Super Showdown was already getting panned by critics and fans before the event even took place, and that's because it was sandwiched between Hell in a Cell in September and Evolution in October. It felt superfluous to a lot of fans, and it just added to an already bloated WWE calendar. Triple H versus The Undertaker should have felt like a bigger deal, and had the match taken place at WrestleMania, then it might have felt a bit more important. But the WWE decided to do it at this show, and so did the game, and so did the Phenom. HBK couldn't help himself. He jumped on the apron a few times and he distracted The Undertaker more than once. He would then get physical with the dead man, and Kane would have to try and stop Shawn while also trying to maintain some order. Soon though, Kane would get more involved and he would try to make things difficult for Hunter. So Kane ended up taking sweet chin music and Triple H put the big red machine through a table. The Undertaker gets the better of Hunter and Shawn was forced to watch his friend take a few hard chair shots. Michaels tried to reason with The Undertaker, and when that didn't work, Michaels got inside the ring and he got punched in the nose. Still though, all this bought Triple H enough time to hit a spine buster, but Taker kicked out of the cover. Shawn handed Triple H his sledgehammer, Kane passed a chair to The Undertaker. Hunter waxed the chair and the chair waxed the Phenom, but there's no referee to count the pinfall. In the end, Kane and Shawn get in the ring. Kane gets taken out with a low blow. The Undertaker tries to tombstone Michaels, but he takes a sledgehammer shot from Triple H, leading to HBK performing the super kick, and Triple H ends it with a pedigree. It was a bit messy, and it was, without a doubt, the weakest Undertaker versus Triple H match to ever take place on pay-per-view, with all the interference truly hurting the overall flow of the match. But it was done like this for a reason. It looks like DX and the Brothers of Destruction are going to let bygones be bygones, as D-Generation X helped the brothers to their feet for a celebration. But Kane and Taker then attack DX, and it's made clear that this isn't over. Triple H gets tombstoned and HBK gets put through a commentary table. Triple H and Shawn Michaels opened up Raw the following night and they talked about respect. Hunter talked about how he respected Shawn Michaels, how Shawn showed respect by sticking to his word and staying retired even when everyone else wanted him to wrestle, and HBK talked about how your respect for someone can change over time. Shawn had a long think about Super Showdown on the flight back from Australia. He thought about how he honoured his word not to wrestle out of a respect that didn't even exist. So when the flight landed, Triple H asked HBK a question. Are you ready? Hunter knows that Shawn's ready, but he wonders if the Brothers of Destruction are ready for D-Generation X at Crown Jewel. Shawn and Hunter reveal their D-Generation X shirts and they bring a formal return to the faction here. And fans pop when they realise that HBK maybe just announced his return to the ring. Later in the show, Michael Cole makes it official when he announces the match along with a match graphic, and then the internet went into overdrive. Remember how Shawn talked about his return having to be right creatively and it had to make sense for him to want to come back? Well, all that was thrown out the window because something that can't be argued is the fact that a lot of money was and still is involved in these Saudi Arabia shows. No matter what you may think of these shows, it's no secret that superstars who make these one-off appearances at these kind of events get paid very well. Fans didn't give a shit about any creative reasons for Shawn coming out of retirement. There were zero discussions about the AJ Styles conversation at Table for Three. It went straight to money and politics. And hey, you gotta admit too, even the most diehard of HBK fans had to look at this and see it for what it was. Shawn's opinion and reasoning has changed over the years. He stated it wasn't breaking his retirement vow and it was like a band getting back together for one night to have fun. He also said he could have earned a lot more money doing a singles match at WrestleMania instead of a tag match in Saudi Arabia, while also stating there wouldn't be another chance for all four of these guys involved to get together and have this bout. I think that's bullshit, by the way, because all four men were just back from Melbourne, Australia. But anyway, in short, HBK said it wasn't about the money. He didn't want to be in a tough position at WrestleMania where he's expected to wrestle a 5-star match against a younger guy. According to Michaels, it was just for fun. It was an opportunity that Michaels thought would never come up, and that's why he agreed to do it. Take from that what you will, it's completely your call, but you have to admit it's a little hard to believe, and trust me, I'm a huge HBK fan. I really wanted to see Shawn wrestle again, but I was kinda shocked when the match was announced. Crown Jewel 2018 also would end up surrounded in a lot of controversy, and there were calls for the show to get completely cancelled, but it went ahead and HBK, Kane, Triple H and Undertaker all performed in the main event. The circumstances, the location, the timing, all that overshadowed the in-ring return of one of WWE's greatest ever superstars. And again, gonna be honest, the WWE and Shawn Michaels should have known this was gonna happen. Also, just a little side note, it's okay to have mixed feelings about this. You could be a big HBK fan and still not agree with him coming back at Crown Jewel, it's fine. And it's also fine to have a hard stance on the matter, but don't feel bad if you're unsure how to feel about it. Not everything's black and white, particularly in the world of professional wrestling. The following week, a pre-tape promo aired featuring Kane and The Undertaker. The dead man repeated that it wasn't respect that kept Michaels retired, it was HBK's fear of the Reaper. Kane said Shawn was afraid of humiliation, the humiliation of getting defeated again by The Undertaker. But at Crown Jewel, when D-Generation X faced the Brothers of Destruction for the very first time, all of Shawn's fears will come true. A war will begin and end at Crown Jewel. Triple H can go back to the boardroom after his defeat and Shawn can shuffle back to the safety of retirement. DX had 3 words for the brothers, are you ready? The brothers have 3 words for DX, rest in peace. On The Undertaker's Last Ride documentary, there's a great outtake of this promo where the Phenom had 3 different words for Hunter and Shawn.
Go yourself.
The week after, Taker and Kane interrupted an in-ring DX promo. The brothers were seen in a graveyard and Taker said the DX reunion will serve as the vessel for the team's total annihilation. DX should have stayed away, they can't turn back the clock. They can't outrun the Reaper and they can't survive the Brothers of Destruction. Kane and Taker then reveal HBK and Triple H's tombstones and they tell Shawn and Hunter that DX will never rest in peace. It was DX though who got the last laugh during the build-up. Triple H interrupted a Brothers of Destruction promo this time and he lured Kane away from the ring, allowing HBK to hit Taker with sweet chin music. Taker sat up afterwards and DX got a little shaken up, but HBK showed everyone that he still had the ability to put The Undertaker down if the right opportunity presented itself. Alright, let's do it. Let's look at the match. A prime example of why some things are best left alone. It took a little time, but Shawn Michaels did finally say that he regretted performing in this match. But he only regretted it because he didn't know The Undertaker was trying to end his career with a great bout. HBK apologized to Taker, Kane and Triple H when he realized The Undertaker was seeking his final match, but trust me, if you haven't seen this yet, Shawn Michaels ends up being the best performer of the match. He has his bad moments too, just like everyone else, but in comparison to his dance partners, he didn't come out of it looking all that bad. The bad match is maybe not the most disappointing thing about all this, and it's maybe more about the fact that they allowed themselves to have the bad match in the first place. But enough of all that, you can be the judge here. Shawn and Hunter are wearing hybrid DX and NXT gear that I thought looked great, the old guard representing the new blood. And the stadium looks absolutely brilliant when the Brothers of Destruction make their way down to the ring. Loads of stalling at the beginning of the match, loads of shit talking, it settles down to Kane and Triple H, and Hunter starts it off by punching Kane in the face. He then counters in the corner and he tries to crotch chop, or chop his crotch, whatever, and Kane punches right back. Triple H stops Kane from tagging in the dead man. He gets the crowd fired up when he points to HBK. Shawn gets the tag, the crowd pops, and Michaels comes off the top rope with a double axe handle. HBK performs a swinging neckbreaker that he seems very proud of, but Kane sets up and Shawn almost gets chokeslammed. Kane then counters a sunset flip, he goes for a tombstone but Shawn reverses and he feigns a super kick. He laughs at Kane and he says he could have had him just then, but the brothers aren't in the mood for jokes tonight. Kane tags in The Undertaker and Shawn loses his smile when he has to face the Reaper for the first time since Mania 26. Triple H tells Shawn to go after the dead man, The Undertaker performs his cutthroat taunt and Shawn tells Taker to suck it. Michaels gets in a few chops stops, but he goes down after a big boot. Taker then softens up the arm and shoulder for old school, but Triple H runs in to stop the dead man, and this leads to Kane jumping in too. All four men fight in the ring. Shawn gets hung up in the Tree of Woe. Kane throws Triple H into Shawn, and then disaster struck. While taking this bump, Hunter falls out of the ring and he tears his pectoral muscle, the same injury that more recently put Cody Rhodes on the shelf. You can see here how bad the injury was after the match, but even when watching the bout, you knew something was up. Shawn gets dumped out of the ring too so he can check on his teammate. The brothers wait in the ring to buy some time and get a damage report. And it's not good. HBK was likely relying on Triple H in this match, but Hunter's hurt, and Shawn, the guy who's been retired, might have to put in an extra bit of work tonight. Hunter's not completely out. He's going to do what he can, but he can't really use his right arm. He tries to chop with his left arm before sending Kane and Taker out of the ring, and the referee checks on Hunter while the cameras focus on HBK. Back inside the ring, Shawn takes old school while Triple H looks like he's in absolute agony at the ring steps. HBK gets choked in the corner, but he manages to dodge a big boot. Hunter gets tagged in, and again he uses the left arm to chop the Phenom. Taker puts Hunter down with a clothesline. He brings the game over to the Brothers of Destruction's corner where Kane gets tagged in, and nobody really knows what to do. Hunter decides he's going to take a slam and he rolls away from an elbow drop afterwards. The referee rushes to Triple H to see if he's okay. He gets up and he trades strikes with Kane, even using his right arm for a punch and looking like he instantly regrets it afterwards. He then hits a DDT before conceding and he tags out. The pace quickens up when HBK lands his signature flying forearm and he smiles after performing the kip up. He tries to slam Kane, but that doesn't go too well. Neither does the suplex counter that follows. Hunter comes back in for a double suplex that DX also struggle with, but Shawn goes upstairs and he turns back the clock with his diving elbow drop. HBK warms up the band for Sweet Chin Music. You can hear him shout "Come on, Glenn" when Kane takes a bit too long turning around. Kane counters Sweet Chin Music with a choke slam, and then The Undertaker comes back in to punish Shawn in the corner. Taker performs Snake Eyes, a big boot and a leg drop. Hunter stops Taker from hitting a chokeslam so Shawn can nail Taker with a super kick, but still Taker sits up before Shawn and the match goes to the outside. Hunter saves Shawn from getting tombstoned on the announce table, and Hunter also performs this rough looking whip into the security barrier. That arm must have been totally out of action at this point. Kane makes Triple H pay with a chokeslam through the announce table, and that's going to be Hunter put out of action until the end of the match. From here, Shawn takes a beating from the Brothers of Destruction. Frequent tags from the brothers lead to Shawn taking a suplex and a sidewalk slam, and in between all this we have the usual punches, kicks and chokeholds. The stadium wasn't loud to begin with, but it's nearly silent at this point, and it feels like the excitement of the match just isn't there, and the guys in the ring really aren't doing a whole lot to get the audience back into it. Shawn manages to stop a Kane top rope attack, and the big red machine slowly falls off the top rope. He then throws Taker into the ring post on the outside, and things then get comically bad when Shawn knocks Kane's mask off with a single punch. The camera zooms in on Michaels while Kane gets his mask back, and then what should have been a great moment in the match gets ruined by a poor landing when HBK moonsaults from the top to the outside. You can see the disappointment in Michaels' face, and Taker puts a hand on his chest as if to say, "Yeah, sorry about that." At this point, it's completely fallen apart, and you can sense everyone involved knows it's bad. Shawn tags in Hunter, and Triple H can't even run the ropes properly now as he delivers his signature facebreaker knee smash, and when he hits the Harley Race knee, the commentators have no choice but to address the injury. Still, he's able to hit a spinebuster on The Undertaker, and he counters a tombstone with a pedigree. He goes for the cover, Taker applies Hell's Gate, and the move gets broken up when Kane falls on his partner after taking Sweet Chin Music. All four men are down. The brothers then sit up and they look absolutely fucking wrecked as they get to their feet. They go for tandem tombstones, but a rake to the eyes from Shawn and a low blow from Triple H leads to both brothers getting super kicked, and Triple H pulls off an awful looking pedigree to end the match. Hunter and Shawn hug in the corner and they talk about the match. You can sense some relief here, and you can also sense that Triple H is seriously hurt. Not gonna lie, I felt let down after the match, as did many others. You don't know what to expect really, but this was definitely below expectations. On The Undertaker's Last Ride documentary, we get to see the atmosphere backstage after the match. Shawn says the match totally blew and he seems annoyed about the moonsault, while Triple H gets attended to by the Doctor and Shane McMahon. Taker said he had some personal problems going on at the time and he wasn't there mentally for the match at all. And Triple H talked about how he knew the match wasn't one that Taker would be happy calling his very last. It was going to make Taker double down on himself and put him right back in that bad cycle. The match didn't give Taker closure. Fans quite simply don't like to think of it as Shawn's last match either, and they'd rather completely ignore it. It was a colossal flop that stung a little more because it featured 4 legends of a bygone era that fans once adored, and I'm sure there were a lot of fans as disappointed as the guys in the ring. Michaels stayed retired, Triple H went back to the office, Kane wouldn't be seen competing in a WWE ring again until the 2021 Royal Rumble, and The Undertaker continued the search for his final match. His match with Goldberg was up next. It was another disaster, and if you want, you can check out my video on that match right now. If you've never watched this Brothers of Destruction vs DX match, yet you're a fan of all 4 of these guys, then don't bother. Seriously, don't bother. If you're an HBK fan, then stick with WrestleMania 26 as his last match and you'll be grand. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care. A big thanks to everyone supporting Wrestling Bios on Patreon. I've got a few Hall of Famers to shout out this week. Middle Kingdom Wrestling can be found on YouTube. Check those guys out if you want to see some wrestling straight from China. Brett Storm can be found on Twitter at Brett D. Stewart, and he's also on YouTube. And Jay Parker Ryan, the Irish Super Smash Bros. Tournament organizer who sorts out the games for the boys in the Big Fish Belfast. Check those guys out on YouTube also. A big thanks to these Hall of Famers and a huge thanks to everyone who supports on Patreon.